hello, and welcome back to Metroid Mondays on Shatter Our Souls with Novaria. Now, today I am going to be focusing a little bit more heavily on side missions. As the title suggests, we're gonna Gravity Ice Beam, as well as a few extras along the way. Now, there's been a theory that I've had for a long time that I've been alluding to throughout the duration of these various videos. And I'm tempted to bring this theory to light. However, it is involving a controversial subject among the Metroid fanbase. Therefore, when I bring this up, please hear me out before I get yelled at over this, please. But Samus in Metroid Other M is not Samus. I know, crazy thought. But there is a lot of a substantial amount of evidence to actually follow through with that statement. Now, a lot of people point to how the suit operates differently, that Samus reacts inappropriately, that she is too docile, that she is not congruent with the character that we see in the 2D series, nor congruent with the character we see and the timeline we experience with the 3D series. Now, this theory acts almost as a bridge to explain away the issues that come with the timeline problems of Other M. First and foremost, Other M Samus is a clone, but not a clone of Samus as she is. More specifically, it's a clone of the human DNA in Samus. We know that when Samus was about 8 years old, roughly speaking, she was taken in by the Chozo after the death of her parents on K2L. If we use that point of logic, Samus's dominant DNA growing up was human. However, she was injected with two different types of Chozo DNA. One that allowed her more of a mental affinity, and one with a physical affinity, both of which increased the size and strength of her as a character. Now I need to start this off with the physical traits because I think those are the easiest to explain. Samus in Metroid Prime, the trilogy, in Super Metroid, in virtually all other media that involves Samus as a whole, she is a 7-foot-tall Amazonian woman with the strength, charisma, and focus to pull off any mission that a standard trained soldier would not. However, in Other M, she's short. We're talking 5 foot nothing short. While she does have significant strength, she can haul around her suit, she can haul herself up through pathways by one arm. There's a part of me that believes that a large portion of that is her suit doing the work for her, not her as a character. This is partially because if you look at Zero Suit Samus from Metroid Zero Mission and the host game of Other M, the Zero Mission version is taller and, dare I say, stronger than the Other M version. But that's not all. Samus throughout the entire game of Other M constantly refers back to Super Metroid. Very little before that. There are a couple little details about how there was the baby Metroid and how it hatched in front of her. And I am aware of that. But there is almost nothing referring to her first mission and the fact that Ridley exists and she has such a strong, visceral reaction of PTSD. Now, the reason I bring all of this up from the emotional and mental standpoint is that Samus's suit requires precision to use properly. It requires focus for her to use it properly. And for the duration of Other M, she's distracted. She struggles. She tries to remain this figure of strength, but she lacks the strength of willpower, strength of mind to be able to actually follow through with what she's doing half the time. This could be explained away in a couple different ways, but the way I see it is that this Samus hasn't experienced the hardships that the Prime series Samus has, that the true Samus has. This clone is witnessing Ridley for the first time after her indoctrination. And we know that that in Metroid that there are means of indoctrinating people, because they have near perfect cloning methods, if not perfect. We know that the space pirates on planet Zebes were able to clone Metroids from the baby Metroid. Now, theirs wasn't 100% perfect. The mock droids did struggle. But in Other M, they have perfect cloning of Metroids. And I've gone so far as to eliminate Metroid's weakness to cold. At least that's what they say. But what else? What could possibly turn us to this mentality as well? It was her first joint mission since becoming a freelance bounty hunter. Now, on its own, if you ignore the Prime series, yes, Samus has been on her own for the entirety of the 2D series. However, if you look at the Prime series as a whole and have that side of the storyline being told as well, we end up with a circumstance wherein one of these things is not like the other. There's a miscommunication somewhere. Now, the other part of it that I think points to it is the vagueness of the different details we get, the communication we get from the characters around her. It's always, I recounted the details. Oh, I haven't seen you since that last mission. There's an air of familiarity for characters that, up to this point, haven't had any connection to the Samus that we know. Now, noting that Adam and his AI is infused in Samus's ship is something I can not properly account for. I will acknowledge that. The Fusion Dread Adam AI, I would assume, was created before this incident happened. Why they chose to go that route, I don't know. Lastly, the big kicker to this. What is it that the Federation actually wants? What would they gain from doing this? And I think it's spelled out in black and white. In Zero, or in Metroid 2, Samus had the orders to eliminate all Metroids, and she chose not to. We don't know why, but that was her decision, front to back. That's what she went with. She chose not to destroy all Metroids. Samus has a mind of her own, and she is willing to forego orders in order to get an outcome that she sees as ideal. In the end, in Metroid 2, Samus, I think, made the right decision, especially with other unknown threats that came out later on. But the Federation didn't know that, nor did they mandate that. We also know that Metroid Prime 3 has Samus's biometrics planned out and DNA scans aboard the GFS of Olympus. Therefore, we know that they have the DNA of Samus. All that's missing is time. The technology of the time would also lean into this a little bit more, as the technology of Prime 1, 2, and 3 is advanced enough that I believe they could simply get almost like a screenshot or a video feed from Samus's helmet. Boom. Done. They now have something to work with to create memories for a character that might not have already been there. Lastly, control. The Fels Samus follows orders constantly while aboard the bottle ship. She follows orders to her detriment, going as far as to shut down her Varia suit, which admittedly is something that the real or original Samus wouldn't dream of doing. The real or the original Samus would never dream of putting herself in harm's way to appease someone. That isn't who she is, and she would have told Adam off simply for stating that she should turn off her Varia suit or anything of a similar nature. Why would they want this? That's really the crux of where all this falls. If their goal came to fruition and Samus fell, what would they get out of it? This is the part that I think really tells all. What they would get out of it is a Samus that is loyal only to the Federation. And I think what shows this and proves this is how the Federation treats Samus at the end of Fusion. They're already trying to discard Samus as an asset. Samus knows too much. Samus is too deep into the thick of things for the Federation to let Samus live without being under their control. Thus, by creating an asset with similar technology, I say similar because likely it's a somewhat butchered reverse engineering of Samus's suit, you end up with a circumstance where the version of Samus that we know, that fans have fallen in love with, and are so against this other M version, are because they're two very different beings. Effectively, Other M's Samus is the backup plan if the original ever goes rogue. Okay, how's that for a theory and controversy? I've just spent 10 minutes on this. I hope I don't get canceled for that. Anywho, we have gotten the Ice Beam and are now on the way to Phendrana. The reason I needed the Ice Beam is because there is a singular door just on the other side of Thardis' arena that houses the next major area, which is deep within a glacier on the other side of the Space Pirate hideout. And it houses one of, if not the most important tool that Samus is going to have for the next little while. The Gravity Suit. Now, the Gravity Suit adds quite a few abilities. Notably, that Samus can now move in water without reduced speed. This means, effectively, that Samus will be able to get to and from any liquid-based environment with ease. The second major item or feature of the gravity suit comes in the form of increased defenses. Typically, throughout the franchise, the increased defenses have been, I believe it's about a 50% decrease to all damage types, including lava damage and environmental damage, which is fantastic for where we're going to end up going soon. Because we're going to need the gravity suit to get through next video's location, and next video, the frigate Orpheon. A return to form, if we will. So, with that in mind, just gonna take a little bit of a brief meander here, and hopefully get through the fires of Magmoor Caverns within reasonable amount of time. Almost all of the upgrades in Magmoor Caverns have been collected, so it's kind of an area I want to try to avoid from here on, if at all possible. As it is an area that is slightly more dangerous than the average location within Talon 4. And I'm kind of curious how it's going to go. Been thinking a little bit about how the battle against Thardus went. And I'm realizing that Thardus kind of kicked me around a lot and took a lot of damage. Having regularly played on normal mode and have never actually beaten Veteran, I have a bad feeling that Hypermode is about to push or pull me through the ringer in the near future. Ouch. Especially if I keep jumping like that. So yeah, fun things to come, I hope. Okay, that one's just me being lazy, I apologize. Assuming I still have people watching at this point in time, does anybody feel that Samus would take on an apprentice later on? Because big if, the Metroid series was recombined into a singular timeline via something, either Prime 4 or a future 2D game, what would it look like? What would that bridge end up being? Part of me questions whether or not Samus from the Metroid Dread Samus would take other M Samus under her wing and try to turn that version of the character into a more viable warrior, as well as a more confident and compatible bounty hunter. To think freely for herself. That's my hope, anyways. Anywho, we're heading into Fendrana. At long last, after a quick save. I don't trust myself right now. I'm too, I feel like I'm rushing a little bit. And I don't really trust that I'm going to be making safe decisions. So, welcome back to Fendrana. You know, I love the spider ball in the original Prime more than I enjoy it in any of the other Prime games. In Prime 2, I like what it is. I just don't like how it looks. It offers nothing in terms of a aesthetic change to the morph ball, which is something I think that the Prime games actually did phenomenally for this particular piece of the game. I admit that a little bit more creativity than just a color swap would have looked nice with the various suits, but I also acknowledge that making the Phazon suit that they had to play it safe. That's the way I want to go with this. That it was probably best for Retro to play it safe originally, so that they weren't going to get in any trouble with their viewers, their player base, or with Nintendo. After the success of Prime, they were a lot more open-ended and had a lot more unique ideas going for them, which I think was to their benefit. But I'm realizing as I'm playing the game more and have spent as much time with Prime as I have, that it is very much a safe game as far as a Nintendo title goes. Like, Super Metroid had a overworld, which was a swamp area. They had a overgrown area in Brinstar. They had a lava area in, I believe, Norfair. They had a... They had a technological area or a technological ship in the form of the crashed ship, which could be the frigate Orpheon. The only area in Metroid Prime that is truly and totally its own thing is Phendrana. And even that, I feel, is playing it fairly safe, given the tendency for Nintendo games to feature ice levels in their games as a whole. So, what I'm getting at, I suppose, is that Retro took it very safe with the locales of this game, but did so in a way that felt refreshing. They always left the player with a feeling of awe, with a feeling of mystery, of questioning what lay around the next bend. Something that a lot of games could benefit from a little more of. Like even here, at the edge of Phendrana, at the edge of the Phendrana drifts, in the middle of a glacier, there are cracks underground leading to a fissure full of magma. So now we're not only dealing with ice, but we're dealing with magma. We are dealing with a superheated pool as a result of this locale and the differing world and biomes on it. I don't know about you, but I think it's officially time for a spacewalk, which ironically is one of the few places that Samus hasn't gone. Because I don't think at any point in time Samus went to battle in a damaged ship that didn't have artificial gravity running. So the gravity suit, aside from Other M, has been manipulating fluids, not manipulating gravity altogether. A little robot drone. We'll take him out quick. It's actually got a lot more health than I expect. Come on, fall down. Oh, yep, there he goes. So, maybe that's a place we could visit in Prime 4, is like Samus taking a spacewalk on the outside of one of the space pirate, not space pirates, or maybe even Silex's ship or a home base out in space. As I think that would do a lot to flesh out the worlds a little bit as far as how the varying suits handle different environments. I'm also curious what the redesign of Samus's ship is, or sorry, Samus's suit in Prime 4 is going to look like. Because if Retro has shown us anything in their prior works, they are very good at redesigning and showing off new abilities through design as a whole. And with the designs of the dark suit, light suit, PED, and hazard shields in the later games, I can surmise that they're probably going to do something fantastic with Samus's suits in Prime 4. I hope. I already love the redesign on the ship with the darker tones, the silver and reds. Oh, delightful. But it would be nice to see something more with Samus's suit. Even down to maybe more minor details, maybe some wiring showing through her gun, or the arm cannon, would just be a little touch that would be absolutely amazing in my opinion. Sorry, I started gushing for a moment. We are heading back to Talon 4's overworld. Now, the reason I want to head back to the overworld is because, as I had stated earlier in the video, we are heading back through the frigate Orpheon. And while the Orpheon is a relatively small section of the game, it has a lot of, well, despite it being a relatively small section, it's going to end up having some dramatic effect later on. And I would rather start there than have to commute, so to speak. So that's what we're doing. We're finishing off the video with the commute, and then heading there next time. So, I suppose the question has to be asked. What do you think? Do you think Samus would take on an apprentice? A rival created by the Federation? Is she solely focused on dealing with the space pirates and other technological groups? Is she going to forego humanity and turn towards her Chozo brethren? Or is she going to find a villain in herself once again? What with, you know, the SAX, Dark Samus, and now potentially the other M Samus. What do you think? In the end, this is all just conjecture. It's all theory. It's all... None of it is actually backed up by hard evidence or proof, as far as written analysis goes, or written statements from Nintendo or Retro as a whole. And I admit all of this outright. But the thing with Metroid is they tend to leave details out to let you, the player, figure out or piece things together yourself. So I would love to hear your Metroid theories, because honestly, I could be missing something totally simple that completely turns everything that I know about the series on its head. Without further ado, I hope you all have a fantastic day, evening, week, whatever that ends up looking like. So, if you don't mind, please like the video, subscribe to the page, and have a good one. You know, it would be interesting. Could they theoretically create an army of Samuses? I mean, technically, there's nothing stopping them. They have the technology. But would they be able to recreate the mentality?